All right, so we're back in the life of Jesus. We're on part 61, Christ-like Conversations number 6. It's our mini-series within it. So, it ain't, don't have any slides. Everybody got a paper?
Wrong paper?
Oh, did you get a paper?
This is part 6. This is part
Part 61. Sorry, I had some wrong papers up there. That's my fault. I got the right ones over there now. I apologize. Everybody good? All right. So let's read this verse. This is Matthew 5. This is 23 through 26. Therefore, if you are offering your gift at the altar, and there remember that your brother or sister has something against you, leave your gift there in front of the altar. First go and be reconciled to them, and then come and offer your gift. Settle matters quickly with your adversary who is taking you to court. Do it while you're still together on the way, or your adversary may hand you over to the judge, and the judge may hand you over to the officer, and you may be thrown into prison. Truly I tell you, you will not get out until you have paid the last penny. Now we looked at this another week and said, think of the principles behind this, right? That it's your job to make the situation right, not the other person's job. As a disciple of Jesus, as somebody imitating God, it is your job to make the situation right and to not let the situation escalate. Because the more it escalates, what's the problem? Yeah, the harder it is to dial ahead. And that's what he says. You're going to wind up in jail. But, it may not be that you wind up in jail, but the situation's worse than it began with. All right, so I'm going to kind of go through the review. So just stick with me real quick. Stop me at some point if you miss this, but I just want to make sure everybody's on the same page. All right, so what's the first big thing when you're going into a Christ-like conversation you need to think about? Safety. Yeah. Now, purpose is next. It's kind of purpose and safety are kind. The first big thing is safety. The premise is that if the other person feels safe in the conversation, they will both talk to you about anything and they will listen to you talk about anything, if they are truly interested in having dialogue with you. Yes, there are people who have no concern to have dialogue with you whatsoever, but you don't know until you actually try. Right? You give them the benefit of a doubt. You create safety. Find out if they're, because I would say I'd say there's probably more people interested in dialogue than you think. Right? Just everybody's gotten used to not having dialogue because they don't feel safe in conversations. All right. So after safety, what's the other thing, Jesse? Purpose. You've got to have a purpose. Now we have this big, gigantic purpose in the background of bringing glory to God by being reconformed to the image of God that we were originally created to be, and by helping other people be reconformed to the image of God that they were originally created to be. We have that big, giant purpose in the background. But we're not always going to say that. It's like, I'd like to have a conversation with you because I'd like to see you reconformed to the image of God that you were originally created to be. And what in the world?
Awesome.
Yeah, I'm not going to walk up to somebody that works for me and say that to them.
That job, I'm out.
Right, right. So we understand that this is the big, but what we need is we have a smaller, right? A smaller, more immediate purpose in front of you. Like, me and my wife need to talk about finances about the house. Me and the kids need to talk about keeping the house clean. Me and the guy at work need to talk about him doing a better job. Me and whoever need to talk about us just getting along. Me and the neighbor need to talk about getting along with each other. And then even a bigger one, like I want to talk to another believer about what it means to be a disciple of Jesus. Or the bigger one, I want to talk to an unbeliever about what it means to be a disciple of Jesus. These are all conversations which have at their end goal the glorification of God by being reconformed to the image of God that we were created to be by imitating Jesus as his disciple. But we have this immediate purpose that we need to hit up first. Right? Okay, so everybody's got that. So big one, safety and then purpose. Right? You need to know that you've got to create safety by imitating God who creates safety. We talked about, like in the Garden of Eden, that what was it that when they sinned, besides sin, what did they introduce into the world? Do y'all remember? Fear. Right? And in the book of John it says that perfect love casts out all fear. Right? So you cast out all fear so that you feel safe. That's what you want to do in these conversations. You want to help them cast out fear so they feel safe. You ain't missed much. Come on in. All right. So y'all got that. First two big pieces are safety and then purpose. And you have that purpose in mind. Now, why is it important to have that purpose in your mind? Yeah, you have a goal. Okay, now why is it important to know what your goal is?
Stay on topic.
Right. What is your tendency? Okay, so you go into this conversation. Right? You go into this conversation. You have these good intentions. You have these goals. You have these purposes. And you go and all of a sudden they either withdraw or they attack you. Right? What are your tendencies going to do? What are you going to do?
Retaliate.
Right. All of a sudden your purpose changes without you realizing it. Because of our fallenness, the same reason they did what they did, you want to do the same thing. So you now want to go to either winning the argument, punishing them, or withdrawing yourself to keep the peace. Right? So when you go in, you need to know what your purpose is and have that purpose in mind and know that that purpose is valuable. Right? You've got to believe that your purpose is valuable enough to have the conversation. Now, how do we know that safety is in danger or it's being compromised in the conversation?
Fight or flight.
Fight or flight. Okay, and there's three different versions of this. There's they do flight or fight, silence or violence. You do flight or fight, or you both do it. Right? That's your sign. Because you may go in this conversation and you may be perfectly fine with the conversation. Right? And they're not. Or they may be perfectly fine with the conversation and you're not. Or neither one of you want to have this conversation. Right? So what you're looking for is silence or violence, fight or flight out of any participant in the conversation. Right? So you know going in that you want to establish safety. It's your job, not theirs. Your job as a disciple of Jesus to establish safety. You've got in your mind, but you know this big overall purpose of reconforming to the image of God, but then you have this immediate purpose of what you're trying to accomplish. You know that, you know it's of value. You go into the conversation, and all of a sudden you see either they go to flight or fight, or you feel yourself going to flight or fight, or both. Right? Now, here's the point. What do you do now?
Reestablish safety.
Okay, so now, you reestablish safety. How? Okay, so this is where we're at. How do we reestablish safety? So the big thing is this, and I think we're on now page 3. Yes. So number 1, first thing to do, you know safety is in danger, you know safety is being compromised. First thing you do, apologize if necessary. Right? And really consider the possibility that you really did something wrong. And yeah, it don't come easily, does it?
No. Even if it's a small little splinter.
Yeah. I've had to walk laps around the house, talk myself into apologizing. You really need to go apologize. I don't want to apologize. You really need to go apologize. I don't want to apologize. You really need to go apologize. I'm going to apologize.
I didn't do nothing wrong.
Right. Well, or you want to say, but, I was just trying to make my point. But you didn't make your point the right way. Go apologize. And that's what Jesus said. He says, therefore, if you are offering your gift at the altar and there remember that your brother or sister has something against you, not that you did something wrong, but that they have something against you. Which means there's the possibility you did something wrong.
Right.
Leave your gift there in front of the altar. First go and be reconciled to them. So catch that. First thing, go and be reconciled to them. If you need to apologize, apologize. Right? Now the other thing is, but what if I really didn't do anything wrong? I thought long and hard about it. I really didn't do anything wrong. There's this thing called contrasting, and you've done it before. I've actually caught people doing it, and I've actually caught myself doing it, and I've noticed that people have learned this skill. You just didn't know what the name what it is. And it kind of sounds like an apology, but it's not really an apology. You're not admitting you did something wrong. What you are addressing is the fact that they believe you did something wrong, or they believe you have ill intentions in the conversation. Right? So let's look at these verses here. It says, settle matters quickly with your adversaries taking you to court. Right? So even if you don't think you're wrong, you still need to settle the matter with this person who is on the other side of you. Yeah.
I'll make a point. Court could be the boss man at work.
See, yeah, that's the other thing.
It's
Yeah.
just any figurehead that's gonna,
Right.
give punishment.
Right. See, so we've always looked at this verse, we've kind of zeroed in lawsuits.
Yeah.
If somebody's suing you, do this. But if you look at it, what it's saying is, in any situation, do not allow it to escalate. Because the punishment, by you allowing it to escalate, the punishment may be greater than what you thought it was. And even if there's not a boss man or an authority figure involved, say it's a disagreement with my wife, settle matters quickly, you might spend a week on the couch.
With no blankets.
I didn't go into this conversation with the intention of spending a week on the couch, did I?
No.
But because I allowed the conversation to escalate beyond where it should have escalated, now I'm sleeping on the couch.
There's bad feelings that will fester, including bitterness, and it's like a root that
Right.
it's bigger and bigger, and then all of a sudden it springs up
Right,
and it defiles others. It's a poison. It's a toxic environment.
right. It's actually worse. I created a worse situation than the one that originally existed. That's what he's talking about. Like at work, that could be it. Me and my coworker ain't getting along. That's bad enough. I escalated. Now my boss knows me and the coworker out here are butting heads.
Right.
Now the boss is involved.
Yeah, it's blown out of proportion. It's a leaven, and leaven spreads.
Right.
When it's not
Right.
dealt with right away.
Right. See, and in my situation where I'm not a supervisor, but I'm over people, if I don't de-escalate a conversation, I might, where I work at, they're probably not going to be sitting in HR. I am.
Doing nothing.
No, I'll be trying to explain what I did or didn't do. And see, and I don't want to be sitting in HR, right? Because now my name's on a list somewhere. I don't want my name on a list somewhere. But not only that, let's back this up even more. That's in the real world. But let's take this back to being a follower of Jesus. I wasn't a disciple of Jesus because I didn't de-escalate the situation. I didn't imitate God, and I didn't imitate Jesus because I didn't establish safety. So therefore, I didn't bring the glory to God that He's due. See, we have a greater reason to do this than anybody. It's not just staying out of trouble. It's actually bringing the glory to God that He's due by me being the image of God that I was created to be, by me obeying and imitating Jesus as His disciple. Right? Okay, so contrast to correct misunderstandings. Another thing he said, and this is a verse, another one that's kind of like that, Todd, where we zeroed in what it immediately says and kind of immediately says and kind of missed the bigger picture. He says, again, you have heard that it was said to people long ago, do not break your oath, but fulfill to the Lord the vows you have made. But I tell you, do not swear an oath at all, either by heaven, for it is God's throne, or by the earth, for it is His footstool, or by Jerusalem, for it is the city of the great King. And do not swear by your head, for you cannot make even one hair white or black. All you need to say is simply yes or simply no. Anything beyond this comes from the evil one. So people have taken that and says, well, don't swear no. Well, you can do that, but the big point is to be clear in your communication. Does that make sense? He wants you, what Jesus is saying here, be open and honest as best you can in your communication. In other words, clear up misunderstandings and do not speak in such a way that creates misunderstandings.
Right. And when you perceive it, that's when you contrast and say, oh, I didn't mean
Right.
to make you upset. Is there something I said? Please clarify.
Right.
And,
Right.
and you just pause and you're listening and you're welcoming.
Right, so what you're doing is, the big thing is re-engage your brain. Right? Your emotions when you get in this situation, your emotions want to take over. The way to keep your emotions from taking over is re-engaging your brain instead of running on the chemicals coursing through your brain. In other words, okay, I hear my voice going up, I feel my blood pressure going up, or I see their voice going up and I see their blood pressure going up, or I see them walking away and shutting down, or I feel me wanting to walk away and shut down. Now re-engage my brain. Reestablish safety. Remember my purpose. Do I consider my purpose valuable that I need to have this conversation? Do I need to apologize? If I need to apologize, apologize. If there's nothing to apologize for, contrast. I don't want you to, but I do want to. I don't want us to, but I do want to. I don't want to sound like this is all your fault, because I do not believe this is all your fault. I believe that I have a large part to play in this misunderstanding, because I haven't communicated my intentions clearly. See, I didn't have anything to really apologize for, just my intentions didn't, I didn't do anything wrong, I'm sorry that you don't understand what I'm saying. That even sounds bad. I think that I said that in such a way that it really didn't communicate how I really felt.
Right. I think we've got some confusion between us that needs cleared up.
Right. Look, I don't want to accuse you. I don't want to attack you.
Right.
I don't want to whatever. But what I would like to do is I'd like to have an honest, open conversation about our finances. I would like to figure out how we can do a better job of getting this done around the house. I would like to, let's have a kind of workplace that me and you both would like to come to, and let's have a working relationship where we feel comfortable working with one another. I don't want to put down your church or put down whatever, but I would like for you to really understand what it means to be a disciple of Jesus. You know what I mean? Look, I don't want to give you the same old religious conversation you've had over and over and over again, but I would like to talk to you about your standing with Jesus. You see what I mean? How you kind of set the stage for the conversation. So, remember safety. Remember what your purpose is. When you see safety being compromised, reestablish safety first by apologizing if you need to apologize. If you don't need to apologize, contrast. And sometimes you have to apologize and contrast, right? But you're clearing up. You're just clearing up and making sure that the communication is as clear and as straightforward as possible. Letting yes be yes and no be no. Right? And sometimes it may be, you know what? I misunderstood what you were saying. And now that you resaid that, I clearly understood what you're saying. I took what you said completely the wrong way. That's my fault. But I would like to talk to you about what are you really trying to say to me. Does that make sense? Okay. So now here's a question. Look, it says question to ask yourself to see if you are being Christ-like in the conversation. All right. So the question is, why is safety at risk? Okay.
Somebody doesn't.
Right, so you reestablish, you see it going, so you see it going away, you have to scale it back down, de-escalate it. But here, now, we've still got to have this conversation. Right, I saw that safety was at risk, I apologized, I contrasted, I de-escalated the situation, but we still need to have the conversation. And now I need to figure out how to have this conversation without escalating it again. You see what I mean? So now that I've realized that the conversation was going awry, I backed it back down, right? But I still need to have the conversation. Now how do I re-engage in the conversation without sending it back up again? Okay, so remember that you had a purpose, right? Remember you had a purpose. Who had a purpose? You did. Did y'all have a purpose? No. Y'all need to have a purpose. And it needs to be the same purpose. Right? So you had a purpose going into this conversation. They may or may not have had a purpose coming into this conversation. Especially if you engaged it. They may not have had a purpose at all. But they suddenly developed one when they felt like you were attacking them. Right? But you de-escalated it. Now, look, just because you have a purpose don't mean that needs to be the purpose of the conversation.
Right. Fine.
So what we need to find is, have I established a mutual purpose? And the mutual purpose may be different than my original purpose.
Yes, flexible.
Does that make sense? So I had my purpose, and I see my purpose as valuable, but when I engage in this conversation, I realize that my immediate purpose may not be immediately attainable, and we may have to have a more immediate purpose first.
That we can find as being mutual.
Right. Okay. And the other one, am I maintaining mutual respect? Have you ever been disrespected in a conversation where you actually thought it might be an interesting conversation to have, but you were so disrespected that you weren't going to have it?
No, it's important. Your body language and your
Right.
tone of voice is very important.
It's like, yeah, that was a conversation that needed to be had, but the way the dude was talking to me, I wasn't having that conversation.
That's right.
Just because of the way he was talking to me.
That's right.
Okay, they feel the same way on the other side sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, now, but what if you understand, like, me and this person, we disagree on everything. Everything possible. I think they are wrong about absolutely everything. How do I respect a person? How do I show respect for a person that I believe is absolutely wrong about everything?
You don't tell them that. You just
What?
agree with them.
But
in
it's-
person,
but
in person you agree with them, but then when you're not with them,
Okay, but inside of me, I need to have some sort of reason to show this person some sort of respect.
Right. They're made in the image of God.
Okay.
They can still be reclaimed.
Okay, that Stan's got the big one. You're right, the Stan's got the bigger one. One, because I need to be Christ-like to another image bearer. If they are a human being, they are created in the image of God, and they are redeemable. Remember how the first century Christians would have felt about Paul. Right? What would they have thought about Paul? He's murderous scum that cannot be redeemed. Right? He is the worst person on the face of the earth.
Right. The biggest threat to the church.
Right. He was enemy number one to the church. He cannot be redeemed. But what happened? Jesus comes to Paul and has a Christ-like conversation with Paul. Then he sends Paul to Ananias, and Ananias has a Christ-like conversation with him. Then Christ has an even longer Christ-like conversation with him. Then he sends him to the disciples, and the disciples don't want to talk to him. But then he has this other guy named Barnabas, who has a Christ-like conversation with the rest of the disciples about how they need to listen and talk to Paul. You see how it de-escalates it, how these Christ-like conversations de-escalate this man from the greatest threat to the church to the greatest ally of the church. You see that? If anything is going to turn this person from the person, if anything is going to change this person from being the person that you disagree about everything with, it's going to be Christ-like conversations. Right? And if they don't want to have a Christ-like conversation, and you really did try to have a Christ-like
Then you
conversation, then you know.
Right.
You know. Right? Okay, so that's how you have mutual respect for them. If the only thing that you can consider about them is that they are an image bearer of God, then that should be enough. Right? They deserve for you to have a Christ-like conversation with them simply because they're an image bearer of God. Okay, that's what that help, Piper?
what?
Okay, good enough. We'll talk about it later. All right. So now this helps you. So I had a purpose, but I realized that we may not have the same purpose. So now I need to figure out how to establish a mutual conversation. And while doing so, I need to establish mutual respect, which primarily means I need to show them respect.
Right.
Right? Okay. So how do I establish a mutual purpose and mutual respect in a Christ-like conversation? To create a mutual purpose, crib. Not crib, crib. C-R-I-B. Okay? So number one, commit to seek a mutual purpose. Why is it important to commit to seek a mutual purpose?
Easy to be sidetracked.
Same team.
Right. Because here's the thing. This is really fun to talk about, ain't it? What happens when you actually have to have this conversation? About 3 minutes into it, yeah, nope, I'm out. Right? If you haven't committed to it, if you haven't said, when I go to have this Christ-like conversation, and I have my purpose, and 2 minutes into the conversation, I realize they don't share my purpose, I'm going to have to, if we're going to have the conversation, the first thing we have to do after I've de-escalated it and reestablished safety is we have to come to a mutual purpose. Have to.
Even if it's trying to understand each other with disagreeing. In other
Right.
words, at least we can hear each other out.
Right.
And that's a way of them feeling you respect them because
Right.
you've heard their opposing
Right.
viewpoint.
Now here, this is it. Let me establish this. This could be interesting. It may take multiple conversations to establish a mutual purpose. The purpose of the first conversation might just be to establish a mutual purpose.
Right.
Do you see what I'm saying? This is how much you have to commit to this. It's like, look, we need to have a conversation about this, but I realize we can't have a conversation about this until we can establish how we're going to have a conversation about this. Your first mutual purpose may be, can we both commit to actually having a civil conversation? Can we simply agree to that? Do you see what I'm saying? So let's say the next thing is, and this is important too, recognize the purpose behind strategies. Okay, what you may be thinking is a purpose may actually be a strategy to get to a purpose. And what we will often do is we will often state our strategies as if they are our purpose. I just want to go home and sit down. Sounds like a purpose, don't it? What's my purpose?
So you can rest.
Right. I want to, right? I want to relax. I want to calm down. I want to get away from the stress of the world. My strategy to do so was I want to go home and sit down. But my actual purpose was to get away from stress and calm down. Do you see the difference? You see, that's important because what you're going to find is, what if one person says, you know what, I want to go to the park, and the other person says, I want to go home and sit down. But you both just want to relax.
Right.
And now you're having an argument about whether you go home or whether you go to the park. And neither one of them is relaxing. Which if somebody would have said, why do you want to go home and sit down?
Right.
Because I just can't take the world anymore right now.
Right.
Okay, why do you want to go to the park? Because I just can't take the world right now.
Right.
Can we find doing something together where we both don't have to deal with the world right now? Does that make sense?
Right.
So look, necessarily you may have a disagreement simply over the strategy, how you establish a purpose. Okay, let's take another one. We need to save money as a family. I'm over here eating beanie weenies and you're turning the thermostat down. Do you see the difference? Okay, do you see what we're up, down, whatever. It's cold right now, so I'm saying turn it down because it's cold weather. You know, heat, you turn it up.
Save money.
Okay, you see what I'm saying? And then I'm getting mad because I'm over here eating beanie weenies and you're going through the drive-thru every day. Right? And I'm just making stuff up, so really don't get, okay, you see what I mean? But then you're mad because you keep trying to turn the thermostat one way or the other to save money. And I'm like, if I'm eating beanie weenies, I'm going to at least be at the right temperature while I eat my beanie weenies. You're right. Now, we actually had the same purpose, didn't we?
Right.
To save money. But we were butting heads over our strategies of how we were going to save money. And we can sit and butt head over beanie weenies and the thermostat all day, but sooner or later somebody might say, you know what, we're butting heads over beanie weenies and the thermostat. I think we need to have a conversation about what really both of us are trying to accomplish here. They say, look, I've been eating beanie weenies because I feel like as a family, we need to save money, but maybe that's not the best way to save money. Can you explain the thermostat thing? Well, I'm trying to save money. Okay, can we come together and establish a mutual purpose of saving money? That'd be our mutual purpose. Let's just agree on our mutual purpose first. Let's not agree how we're going to do it. Let's simply agree on a mutual purpose. Right? I mean, okay, are there the people who want to go to work and argue with everybody? Sure. Are they the majority? No, really they're not. The majority of people want to go to work and have, a stress-free environment at work. Can we agree on that? Can we agree, me and you as a co-worker, that we need to establish a stress-free environment? Let's just agree on our mutual purpose first.
Right. That we can work on how to get there, an ongoing
Right.
conversation.
So that's the thing. Recognize that your purpose, what you're thinking your purpose may not be your purpose, it may be your strategy. So does this take some thought?
Oh my,
Do you see why you've got to calm down and de-escalate this first? Right? So your brain can actually sit and think, okay, why was I so ill? Why was I so angry? What was I so mad about? What were they so ill? What was they angry? What was they mad about? How can we get over this? What can we do to move past this? Can we agree on something to move forward? Right? Okay, so if you don't have a mutual purpose, you may have to invent a mutual purpose. Right? Like I said, you go in, you figure out it appears you don't have a mutual purpose, so you need to first you need to find out if it's simply a difference in strategies, right? That you actually did have a mutual purpose, but you had a different strategy to try to achieve that mutual purpose. Then if you figure out that you really didn't have a mutual purpose, right? I'm trying to think of one now. So let's say that, okay, I'm trying to think of a really hard one here. So let's say that we need to buy a new car. My purpose is spending as least money as possible. Right? I mean, that's my purpose, spending as least money. I don't care. Roll up windows. 3-cylinder. You don't even get a 4-cylinder. 3-cylinder. Right? They exist, right? Right? And over here, they want to buy a reliable car.
right.
Right? Whatever the price is. Reliable car. That's not the same purpose at all, is it? Right? So we're going to have to establish a mutual purpose. I'm going to have to give some, ain't I? I mean, you ain't going to go buy a 3-cylinder Spectrum, right? Todd knows what 3-cylinder Spectrum is. It's a funny part. I'll just show our age. Right? I'm not going to buy you a 3-cylinder Spectrum. You're not going to get a Lexus. Right? We're going to have to somehow, some way, establish a mutual purpose where we say, okay, price point is here. They say, okay, mileage and model is here. Because I know that mileage, I know that model is reliable. Do you see what I'm saying? So we had to establish a mutual purpose. Right? You may not get your original purpose, but here's the thing. Is it worth sleeping on the couch? Right? Is it worth them being mad at you for the car you bought them for however long they've got that car? Do you see why? Why is this purpose of me saying you get $1,500 to buy a car? Why is that not worth it?
When we turn in some wrenches.
Well, that too. Okay, let's up it. You got $4,000 to buy a car, and that's it. Right? That's all you got. But we can afford more than $4,000. We really can. We really can. I'm just saying, this is my number. Why is it not worth me sticking to that number at all costs? No, we ain't talking about the car itself. Why is it not worth me sticking to my price point at all costs if the price point can be feasibly raised?
Because you have a mutual friend, not reliable.
We gotta get along, don't we?
Right.
Yeah.
So it's not worth.
Right,
Let's say you found one for $4,500.
right.
How much are you willing to pay not to sleep on the
Now let's take that a little beyond that. Let's take that a little beyond that.
Is there ever a time when it is worth?
Sure. Let's say all you have is $4,000. Let's say that's all you have. If you go 45, you can't pay the house payment.
You have to rob Peter to get paid Paul. That's crazy.
Right. You see, there is a point. Yes, I agree. There is a point of unreasonableness, but you need to calm it down and you need to have that calm conversation. You have that calm conversation of, okay, I understand you want to spend more than $4,000 for a car. We're going to have to sit, before we can do that, we need to have another conversation about our finances. But see, now, instead of me saying, well, I don't know where you can get the money, you figure out where the money, you can get the car. You see the difference between me saying that, which is what Kurt wants to say, and Kurt saying, okay, I understand that you don't believe that we can get you don't believe that we can get a reliable car for $4,000. I understand what you're saying. If you think that we absolutely have to spend more money than $4,000, before we have a conversation about what car we're going to buy, we need to have a conversation about our finances. Okay? And maybe in that conversation about the finances, you figure out that there is $500 somewhere. Or they figure out there ain't $500 somewhere. Yeah, so yeah, there are times when you absolutely say, you know, that's impossible. I mean, there actually is in times when it hits a point of absolute impossibility, or it is unsafe, or it is sinful, what they want to do. Right? That's when, yeah, you do stop that. Now, I agree, Jason. There are absolute points of, but here's the question. Have you stopped and asked yourself if it really was absolute or not? You see what I'm saying? Yeah, no, I agree. That's it. Again, I only make this amount of money. There is a point of we cannot spend more money than that.
And then you get into, is it absolute in your mind, or is the situation absolute?
Right. That's the other. Was it absolute? Like I said, if it's something that, it absolutely, the math just don't line up. You know what I mean? The math just don't line up. What you're talking about is sinful. What you're talking about is destructive. What you're talking about is hurting someone worse than helping someone. I want to give my brother $300. Your brother the crackhead? I was not picking on anybody specific. I really wasn't. Right? Okay, yeah, I don't want, okay. So now here's the thing. Do we need to give brother the crackhead $300? No, we don't. Do I just need to say absolutely not?
Why does it mean?
Okay. So now I need to de-escalate this and say, we probably need to have a conversation about that. And then they start blowing up, and you say, look, I didn't mean to insinuate something about your brother, because I know that's what you're thinking I'm insinuating by saying we need to have a conversation. I don't mean to insinuate that, right? But our family finances are this. You know what I mean? Is there something, can we talk about the situation, and can we, and if they're absolutely dead set on giving the crackhead brother $300, absolutely, and there is no absolute good reason for this, yeah, you don't.
If he's hungry, that's one thing.
Right. Yeah, you talking about he ain't had nothing to eat in 3 days, tell him come over, I'll fix him a sandwich.
Yeah.
So, but see, but for you to have these calm conversations, even that was smart, Alec. I don't even say it that way, do it. Right? So you see how de-escalating the conversation? So let's spend a couple minutes on that one. That's a good one. So let's think about that one. Let's take that one and run with it, because that was out of the blue, so I hadn't even pre-thought that one before. So, spouse or whoever shares your finances with you wants to give $300 to somebody they don't need to give $300 to. Okay. Start out, number one, what's my purpose? What's my big, giant, grand overall purpose? For me to imitate Jesus and to help, to bring glory to God by me imitating Jesus and to possibly help them imitate Jesus. So I've got 3 people I'm thinking about: me imitating Jesus, the person I'm talking to directly about imitating Jesus, and this person over here imitating Jesus, and then bringing glory to God by doing so. Got that purpose overall. So is it worth having this conversation? Right, I'm an image of God, they're an image of God, they're an image of God. It's worth having a conversation. Okay. what's my immediate purpose? My immediate purpose.
Keep $300.
Yeah, not to give them $300. What's their immediate purpose?
Get away with $300.
Okay. Now I'm gonna ask you this. Was that actually my purpose? Or my strategy? Well, we heard strategy.
Purpose.
Strategy.
The purpose, if you're trying to make them a better image of God, is to probably get them off the crack.
Okay, so my immediate purpose actually was to better them, to do what's right for them. My strategy was not to give them $300. Your strategy was to give them $300.
But you may still have the same purpose.
Okay, let's see what I'm saying? Once I backed down and I stopped and I thought for a second, and I thought, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to insinuate them and insult them, and I didn't mean to insinuate that you were wrong in doing that.
Right, they might mean well, they
Right.
really might wanna help.
Exactly. You see how de-escalating the conversation? Suddenly the conversation is just this whole other place now. I would really like to do what's best for them.
Right. And that becomes a mutual purpose.
Right. Because you see, now, do you see how I de-escalated it? I really want to do what's best for them. I believe that you want to do what's best for them too. But I think we need to have a conversation about what's actually best for them. Now, is this conversation probably going to last just today?
No.
No. Okay. And do you see, now, am I going to, throughout this conversation, have to de-escalate it? Yes. The question is, now it's real easy for me just to say, you know what, dude, I don't even want to have that conversation.
Right.
I'm just going to say no to the $300 and I'm going to walk off. But, as a disciple of Jesus, who has been commanded by Jesus to do certain things and to speak a certain way, so that glory might be rendered unto God that He is due, I realize this is a conversation that needs to be had. And as a disciple of Jesus, I'm the one who's responsible for de-escalating it and establishing safety.
Right.
Right? So, so when they get, look, so, let's say, I've de-escalated it now. I said, look, I'm sorry for coming across and saying that about your brother. I didn't mean that. I really do what's best for him. What response might I get? Let's just be realistic here.
No, you don't.
No, you don't. Or if you did, you'd give him the $300.
Bingo.
Okay. I'm sorry that my actions in the past have communicated that I really don't care about them. You're actually right. Because to tell you the truth, in the past I haven't cared about them. But, you know what? Now, if you're talking to your spouse, you should be able to have this conversation. I do realize they're an image of God. Right? I do value them for that reason, if for no other. And so, simply because they're an image of God, I'm sorry that in the past I haven't communicated that I cared about their well-being, but I want you to know that if for no other reason, because they're an image of God, I actually do care about their well-being.
Right.
Okay, now, you see how now? Okay, well,
But you're still at an impasse, and that's
Okay.
where you can have the overlay of Proverbs. Knowledge, understanding, wisdom, prudence, discretion.
Right.
How can we together think through how we may best help this man
Right.
who's got a serious personal problem without enabling him?
Right.
So
Right.
that's where it might take time and
Right.
give and take. But people don't tend to want to even deal with those details. Then if they give them some time, yes, I see your point. Your idea, I think, will
Right.
work better. And maybe there'll be a third idea that is neither your first thought or their first thought.
Right. So do you see how constantly de-escalating the conversation, whenever you see them come back on the attack,
Right.
if they come back on the attack, you're like, man, I already de-escalated this. But they're back on the attack.
Right.
You got to de-escalate it again.
Right. It's it's called a pool of information, because
Right.
then you could help with another relative who maybe helped him 2 months ago, and they got burned with their $500, and then that wakes up the other person. Well, then what could we do instead? Then you find out somebody down the road helped them in an effective way.
Right.
You know, you just put together, and you create a bigger pool of information that they can also.
Don't get too far ahead of us.
Yeah.
We're getting there. We really are. All right. So, let's recognize. Okay, so we invented mutual purpose. Now, here's the thing. Once you've established mutual purpose, you've actually, remember what we talked about, strategies? So now we're going to develop a new strategy. My strategy was, don't give them the money. Your strategy was, give them the money. Maybe there's another strategy.
That's right.
Do you see what I mean? But we had to establish that mutual purpose of, you know what? Maybe because let's think about the third person who wants to give them $300. Maybe they just want to give them $300 just to shut them up. And maybe they realize that in their conversation with you, they're like, you know, really, I just wanted to give them $300 because I get tired of hearing about it, and I just want them to go away. And so you're right. I haven't really actually been thinking about what's in their best interest. And I agree with you that we should be doing what's in their best interest. Can we work together to find a way that we might have to give them some money, or we might have to spend some kind of money to somehow help them, but where it's not being used in the wrong way? Can we develop a strategy to do this?
Right.
Now, what's the big thing that this is taking up? Time. So do you really have time to do all the crazy, stupid things we do and be a disciple of Jesus?
Do you really not?
Right. Do you really not? Though there's the other thing.
But, yeah. You save grief and time down the long run.
Yeah.
It's better to invest the time and the extra effort up front before it escalates and festers.
Right. So because here's the thing. Let's stop and think about this. That's a pretty serious one. Somebody's got a drug habit. That's a pretty serious one. Is me getting to watch all the episodes of Games of Thrones really worth allowing it? You know what? I got episodes of Games of Thrones to watch. I don't really watch Games of Thrones, but I'm just picking one. I got episodes of Games of Thrones to watch. I ain't got time to have this conversation.
And it just shows your priority.
Really?
You don't care.
Right, really? You know what I mean? I got such and such to do. I don't have time for this conversation. Really? They're just going to wind up in jail anyway. Maybe not if you, as a disciple of Jesus, actually acted like a disciple of Jesus.
And reach out in an effective way.
Right? See, this goes all the way back to that original purpose. So what we're going to do is we're going to cut it off right there because we're about out of town. We're about out of time. But then y'all, okay, because there's more to it. Stan's getting ahead of us a little bit because he's read ahead. But there's more to this, okay? But y'all get, so let's do this, crowd participation. What's number one thing?
Safety.
Create safety. After safety, you got to know what?
Purpose.
You got to know what your purpose is. And now, when you go into this conversation, are they necessarily going to have the same purpose as you?
No.
No. How? Okay, so how do you know safety is being compromised? Fight or flight. What do you need to do when fight or flight happens?
Silence or violence.
Hold on, wait a second. So what?
De-escalate.
De-escalate it. How do you de-escalate it? What's the very number one? What does Jesus say? First go in.
You reconcile.
Apologize if you need to apologize. If you don't need to apologize, what do you need to do? Contrast. You getting it? It's starting to make sense in your mind how this works?
I've had this before, but I can't remember where.
You probably had it at work at some point in time.
Yeah,
Right, but do you see how it's actually the teachings of Jesus? They just secularized it?
yeah.
Yeah. That's what I saw. It's just the teachings of Jesus, they just been secularized to accomplish a secular purpose. And like I said, it's almost ridiculous that the secular world can go, hey, if we use the teachings of Jesus, we'll accomplish our secular purpose. And the church is over here going, we don't know what to do.
It's just a shame. That's a shame.
Yeah, and it really is a shame that we're out here watching the world go to hell, and we go, we don't know what to do about it. Well, maybe, just maybe, if we actually did what Jesus said and spoke the way Jesus spoke and speak the way he commanded us to speak and say the things he commanded us to say, maybe we might make a dent in something.
Amen.
Because I can tell you, the business world has figured out that they're making a dent in things using the words and ways of Jesus. Right? And they're doing it to make money. We got a greater purpose to bring glory to God. If we say, hey, I'll do this to make money, but I won't do this to bring glory to God, what does that say about me?
Greedy.
Value that money more.
Yeah, no man can have two masters. Right? All right, let's close in prayer.